Welcome back guys to another video, and in this video we're going to be going over a video by, you guessed it, Jeff Nippert, and we're going to be going over his take on some of the top 5 training mistakes that most people make when they're going to the gym. So we're going to be going over what those mistakes are. I'll be giving some of my input into it, and yeah, without further ado,
Alright guys, so here we are. We're going to be going over Jeff Nippert and his routine. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video.
Okay, what is going on, everyone? So in this video, what I want to do is share the top
what he thinks
5
is
training myths that
messed
most
up.
beginners
What he thinks
seem
are
to
the top
fall
5
for.
mistakes.
I've personally fallen for all 5 of these early on in my training career, and now I've been training seriously for 13 years, and it's during those first few years of lifting that you're most primed to make the best gains you'll ever make. So you really want to capitalize on that newbie period. So what I'm going to do is overlay some clips here from my latest full body workout as I go through the myths. And before we get started, I do want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and I'll have a little bit more about that at the end. So the first training myth I want to cover is the idea that high reps are better for toning and low reps are better for bulking up. Now, both of these ideas aren't
I've never
really
heard
true.
of this one before.
First of all, the term toning is one of those buzzwords without any real science base. I think what most people mean when they say toning is basically losing fat so the underlying muscle can show through better. The losing fat part is actually really simple.
All the ripped guys you see just have less body fat, not necessarily big. They just have
a caloric deficit
body fat
and eating enough protein. And
losing
the
body fat
part
can actually
is pretty
make you look
straightforward as
bigger.
well. You simply need to apply a progressive tension stimulus to the
Guy who
muscle
weighs 10
by
pounds or
getting better
less,
at
but goes
lifting
from
weights over time. But I think the basic idea is
14% body
that
fat to
people think
10%
by
body
doing
fat
more
is
reps,
way
you'll
bigger
burn
at 10%
more
body
calories
fat.
and as a result lose more fat, especially from the body part that you're training. But there are at least 3 studies showing that body fat spot reduction isn't possible. And according to a recent issue of the Mass Research Review, a typical weight training session only burns about 75 to 300 calories anyway. And even if you could
You
increase
can build
that
muscle
number
in a
by doing
specific
more
area,
reps,
which
the
then
rate of
when
energy
you lose body
expenditure
fat, it
will
will make
never
it
hold a
seem
candle to
superior to other areas.
150 pound
There's
person
already
burn
more
about the
muscle
same
there.
calories in a 10 to 15
Muscle
minute
in a
jog
particular
as
area
a 1 hour
promotes
workout with weights. So in my
more
opinion,
calorie
I wouldn't
burn,
think
which
of using
promotes
weight
more
training
fat
as
loss.
a fat loss tool at all. I'd recommend fine-tuning
Since
your diet
muscle
and
burns
cardio
more
to set up
calories
an
than fat.
appropriate caloric deficit while using weight training to take care of the muscle building process.
Very
Now, the
true.
other side of this coin is that low reps are supposedly going to be better for gaining mass. And as it turns out, this really isn't true either.
Nope.
We know from research that high reps and low reps are both effective at building muscle as long as you're taking sets to or close to failure. Take this 2015 study
Very
on
true.
low versus high load training, for example. One group did 25 to 35 reps per set, and the other group did more moderate reps in the 8 to 12 zone. Both groups used a typical 3-day per week full body training routine, and after 8 weeks, ultrasound showed that both groups saw the same muscle growth. And I love this graph from Stronger by Science, where you can see that most people think a more moderate 8 to 12 rep zone is better for building pure size, whereas in reality, all rep ranges can be effective for this. Still, I think there is
But
a
in general,
practical hypertrophy
I
zone
feel like
somewhere around 6 to 15 reps.
6 is
because
pretty
even
low.
though reps above 15
I think
can
it's
still
spot on.
cause the same
I'd say
growth,
actually 5 to
also
15.
very taxing on recovery for no extra benefit.
5 15
and by the
reps
same
is pretty
token,
good.
reps lower
But
than
5
6
reps,
tend
closer
to
you
run
get down,
extra
the
risk
more
of injury from heavier loading.
you'll be
So while in
increasing
theory there isn't
strength.
anything
Closer you get to 5
magical
reps,
about
like
the
5
6
to
to
8 reps
15
for
rep
more
range, in
strength-based
practice it is the
training.
most reasonable, and you should
And
spend
then
most
8
of your
to
time
15 reps
working in
or 8
this
to
rep
12
range,
reps, I feel
with
like the
occasionally
optimal
dipping
range
below
for
it
more
or above it.
hypertrophic
But hopefully
training,
by
more
now it's
size
clear that there's
building
no reason to think
and
that doing
endurance in
higher
the
reps
muscles.
is going to help with toning or doing lower reps is going to help with bulking. All rep ranges build muscle,
Exactly.
and no rep ranges are particularly good at burning fat. Okay, so the next myth pretty much everyone falls for is that you should only train one body part per workout. Early on, most people are encouraged to follow a split, something like this one.
Yeah,
You hit chest on
it
Monday,
helps.
back on Tuesday,
Resting.
Wednesday is leg day, Thursday is shoulders and abs, and then arms on Friday, and then you have a rest day on the weekends. And this is the split that I followed when I first got started, and I think the idea behind it is that you want to split up your training so you can really just destroy one muscle per workout and then give it a full week to recover and grow. But as it turns out, research shows that a full week
But
between workouts is way
training
more time than you
twice
actually need,
a
and there
week
might
is
be an
better.
upper limit to how much benefit you can get from just killing one muscle in a single workout. And in the scientific literature, this has been proposed
Better
as a
train
per
twice a
workout
week.
upper threshold for volume. So rather than absolutely destroying your chest on Monday with 12 sets, you'd be better off splitting up those 12 sets across 2 workouts. So for example, using a push-pull leg split, you'd hit 6 sets of chest on the first push day, and the other 6 sets on the second push day. And you can check out my push-pull legs Science Applied series for more examples on that. Also, the entire point of training isn't to beat the muscle to a pulp, it's to stimulate muscle protein synthesis and make the muscle more sensitive to amino acids. This is what actually triggers the muscle to grow. And as you can see in this figure from Damas and colleagues, when you train at time 0, muscle protein synthesis spikes up for around 24 hours after training, but then goes back down, probably going back to or near baseline around 48 to 72 hours after lifting. So this means that after just 2 or 3 days, you're not really getting anything from that chest workout anymore, and you'd be better off hitting chest again in a couple days.
Exactly.
Now, in more advanced trainees, this response operates on an even shorter time scale. So after just 10 hours or so, muscle protein synthesis starts to go back down, and within a day or two, it's back to near baseline levels again. So this might offer some theoretical basis for a high-frequency, full-body training routine in more advanced lifters. Now, I think it's important to say that I don't think that so-called bro splits are totally useless. I personally managed to build a ton of muscle myself using a body part split for at least 3 or 4 years when I first got started lifting, and I know several top natural bodybuilders who still use a bro split. So it
generally feel like
it does
my
work.
legs
and I've been saying this for a while. 4 years ago, I uploaded a
2-3
video
times a week,
why I
but
think
then
bro splits aren't actually as bad
certain
as people make them out
certain
to be.
muscle groups like my neck,
Interestingly
mentioned my
this
neck,
year,
I
a new
probably train
systematic
like
review
twice a
or
week,
meta-analysis
or maybe
looking at
once.
25 studies
It
concluded that
hurts like
training
crazy.
frequency
I can't
actually
overdo it.
doesn't significantly
muscle
impact
groups,
muscle
particularly the
hypertrophy
smaller muscle
when
groups,
volume is
they train
equated.
with
This goes
isolation
along
training.
with what I've been
Those
saying
muscle
all
groups
along.
you want to train
The
less.
best training split is the one that allows you to get in an adequate amount of volume per week while distributing your working
Well, it
sets
doesn't apply for
throughout the
everything. My
week
biceps,
in a
you
way
wanna
that
train
allows
them
you
a
to
lot.
recover
Biceps
and perform optimally.
take a lot
And I
of
would say the
load.
main reason that the bro split isn't the best, apart from all
Same
that
thing with
theoretical
triceps.
stuff,
Triceps
is
is a
that
bigger
cramming
portion of the
all
arm,
those
so
sets in
arguably
one
more
workout
important than the
isn't going to
biceps.
maximize your performance on those sets. Later in the workout, you're going to be more tired and you won't be able to move as much weight as if you had just split that workload up across 2 or 3 workouts throughout the week. Also, in the real world, hitting each body part more than once a week is usually going to lead to more weekly training volume anyway, which tends to cause more hypertrophy. So it isn't so much that bro splits are terrible and you'll never make gains on them. It's just that they probably aren't the smartest way to set up your training routine, and from a practical perspective, are most likely going to end up leaving some gains on the table.
This is
why in my fundamentals hypertrophy
like
program,
killing
which is
yourself
designed for
for
beginners,
training.
I include 3 different splits:
Go like
full body
110%.
program, an
It's
upper
good
lower
to go
program,
to
and a
failure.
modified
Some people
body
like
part
really
split,
overdo it.
all of which are very effective. So the third myth
You're
is
less
the
likely
idea
to
that
do
you need
that
to
if
get
you train
sore in
more
order
times
for a
a week.
workout to be effective, and I just don't think this is true at all. Soreness is the result of a novel stimulus, not necessarily an effective stimulus. So for example, if I were to go run a marathon after recording this video, I'd probably be very sore the next day, but that doesn't mean I would have built any new muscle because there'd be no tensile stimulus for growth. Or if for some reason I decided to start stabbing myself in the leg repeatedly, I'd be significantly more sore than after a well-designed leg day, but the leg day would definitely cause more muscle growth. And in some ways, I would say soreness can actually be a negative thing for muscle growth, as it can interfere with performance. For example, I just finished my upper-lower program where I'd hit my upper body every 2 days. Now, if I annihilated my back on day 1 and was still really sore on day 3, that would undoubtedly interfere with my ability to perform my best on that second upper body day.
Exactly.
What really matters for progress. With that said, I will say that soreness can be a decent indicator that you actually hit the muscle you were trying to hit. For example, if you're new to doing hip thrusts and the next day you only feel soreness in your lower back and hamstrings, that's an indication that you performed the exercise incorrectly and that you didn't actually target your glutes properly. Now, but still, assuming you're using proper form, progressively overloading, and choosing exercises that actually target the muscles you're trying to grow, I'm not really convinced that getting sore really tells you much of anything useful. So rather than relying on soreness as a gauge of a good workout, I think you should instead look to your workout log. Did you lift more weight this workout than the last workout? Did you do more reps than the previous workout? Did you improve your form in some small way? Were you more focused during the training session? I would say these metrics are far more valuable than just how much your muscles hurt the next day. Okay, the next myth that pretty much every beginner falls for is that muscle confusion is really important for shaping the muscle to grow.
At all.
I discussed this in more length.
Well, actually, it has some sort of
video that
merit
I
to
posted
it,
last
in
week,
where
so I'm not going to go into too
you
much
want to
detail here.
increase
The long story short is that research tells us that it really doesn't matter if you're constantly switching up variables from week to week.
Yeah, you don't want to change the workout.
Tension is the main thing driving growth. Actually, I would say that if you're constantly switching things up, it can actually stunt your progress because there's no intentionality to your progression. Let's say one week you're doing lat pull downs, next week you're doing hammer strength machines with lots of drop sets, the next week you're doing weighted heavy pull-ups. Now, by constantly switching things up, it becomes so much more difficult to actually progressively overload on each individual exercise. This is why for beginners, I actually recommend the exact opposite approach. You want to keep the core of your training routine exactly the same from week to week. This way, you're going to master form while getting stronger on those movements. This is going to cause the muscle to grow so much better than constantly switching things up will. Now, with that said, your training doesn't need to be boring. You can have some exercises that you swap in and out, and you can be more flexible with those. And you're welcome to change the reps and even add in some drop sets or whatever else. But I would say that having at least 1 or 2 main heavy movements per day that you stick to, get better at, and get stronger with is smart. For example, on a pull day, including a pull-up and a pendlay row, each and every workout for at least 8 weeks is going to ensure that each and every workout you're improving something on these 2 movements, whether that be weight, technique, mind-muscle connection, or some other form of progression. Okay, so the 5th myth we're going to cover here is no pain, no gain, which basically means if you're not killing yourself in the gym and taking every set to failure, and the muscle just isn't going to grow. And this, of course, isn't true. Now, it is very important that you apply an appropriate level of effort in the gym, but as I explained in my video on effective reps, based on the data that we have, muscle growth is very similar between a set taken all the way to failure and a set that leaves 1 or 2 reps in the tank. And since taking sets to failure, especially on heavy compound exercises, can cause more fatigue, increase injury risk through form breakdown, and reduce the volume that you can do later in the workout, I generally recommend reserving sets taken to failure for the last set of an isolation exercise while leaving 1 to 3 reps in the tank for everything else. And if you guys want more detail on that, I definitely recommend checking out my full video on effective reps, which I'll link down below. Also, for all other information, I want to direct you guys to my fundamentals video series here on the channel, which covers all the basics.
Go check that guy, the fundamentals thing out if you guys want to. He has a bunch of different programs. You guys can
hypertrophy program.
Check his programs out too.
Their first few years of training. And before we go, I want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Squarespace is the
That's it. That's the end of the video, guys. But Jeff Nippert in general here, I feel like bestowed upon us great insight into training myths. A lot of them I've heard of. There was that one with the toning, where he explained, I don't remember what it was. It was, let me see here. Training myth. I've heard about the confusing the muscle one before. The one that high reps are better for toning and low reps are better for bulking. Yeah, I've never heard of that one before. But now you guys know. That's not true. A lot of people have heard that apparently, and Jeffrey covered that. So yeah, more you know. Please comment, like, subscribe. Let me know what you guys want to see next, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye bye.